But let's go back to the drawing board stage.
The executives here have dollies on their mind.
And it isn't children who purchase and play with these tin soldiers once they're made.
In the 1940s, many toys were not as safe as they seemed. From lead-based toy soldiers to model trains with dangerously hot engines, how many dangerous items did children once play with, unaware of their hazards? Join us as we explore the 25 most dangerous 1940s toys banned forever.
It was a man called William Britton 60 years ago who beat the Germans at their game of making toy soldiers.
In the 1940s, toy soldiers made from lead were very popular among children. These small figures, produced by companies like Britton's Limited, were made from a lead tin mix and painted with lead-based paints. Britton's Limited, a major producer, began making these toy soldiers in the late 1800s and continued until the mid-1900s. The soldiers were very detailed and realistic, which made them a favorite for young collectors. However, these toys were dangerous because lead is a toxic metal. Exposure to lead, especially through touching or swallowing lead paint chips, could cause lead poisoning. This condition affects the nervous system and can lead to developmental problems. Due to these risks, many countries banned the use of lead in toys in 1966. Today, Britton's Limited still makes toy soldiers but uses safer materials like plastic and metal. Could dangerous toys like rocket guns be the next big concern? Let's explore their impact. Rocket guns were popular toy guns that shot small rockets with sharp points. Made by different companies, including Daisy Manufacturing Company, which was famous for air rifles, these toys were designed to look like actual rocket launchers. They appealed to children who were interested in military equipment and space exploration. Unfortunately, these toys were very dangerous. The small rockets could fly at high speeds, and their sharp tips could cause serious injuries, especially to the eyes and face. Many accidents were reported, raising concerns among parents and safety groups. By the 1950s, more safety rules were implemented and many rocket guns were taken off the market. Manufacturers began making safer toys instead. Daisy Manufacturing Company, now Daisy Outdoor Products, still makes air rifles and outdoor gear. In the 1940s, doll heads with removable parts were popular among children, offering a unique level of interactivity. These dolls, crafted by companies like the Ideal Toy Company and F&B, often featured metal heads and detachable limbs, allowing children to mix and match parts to create customized looks for their dolls. However, while the play value of these toys was undeniable, they carried potential safety concerns. The use of lead in the materials posed a risk of lead poisoning if children accidentally ingested small fragments or paint chips. By the 1950s, stricter safety rules were implemented, and many of these dolls were removed. Manufacturers started designing toys with safety in mind, ensuring parts were securely attached and not easy to swallow. In the 1940s, firecracker toys became popular but were very dangerous. These toys, made by small manufacturers, contained tiny firecrackers or explosives that looked like real fireworks. Children loved these toys because they could trigger mini explosions. But the fun came with serious risks, as the firecrackers could cause burns, eye injuries, or even start fires. The toys were often poorly made and lacked safety features, which meant they could explode unexpectedly and harm the child using them. Accidents and injuries led parents and safety experts to worry. By the 1950s, stricter safety rules were implemented, and many of these toys were removed from stores. The production and sale of dangerous toys like these are now banned in many countries, and toy safety standards have improved. These firecracker toys caused serious harm, but what about other dangerous toys? Let's explore the risky toy ironing boards next. Toy ironing boards with real heaters were popular among children in the 1940s. Companies like Wolverine Toy Company made these toys with small electric irons that could heat up. The idea behind these toys was to let kids pretend to iron clothes like their parents. But the electric irons got very hot, which made them dangerous. They could cause burns and even start fires if left unattended. Because of these safety concerns, reports of accidents and injuries led to stricter rules in the 1950s. Many risky toys were pulled from shelves, and manufacturers began creating safer versions without heating elements. Wolverine Toy Company, now known as Wolverine Worldwide, no longer makes toys and instead focuses on producing shoes and clothing. Chemistry sets were popular educational toys in the 1940s and 1950s, made by companies like A.C. Gilbert and Porter Chemical Company. These kits included chemicals and tools for experiments at home. Many of the chemicals used in these sets, such as mercury, radium, and sulfuric acid, were dangerous. These substances could cause serious harm, like poisoning and burns, especially since the sets lacked safety instructions. Interest in science and technology increased during this time, leading to these kits' rise. As people became more aware of the dangers, safety concerns grew. By the 1960s, new laws like the Federal Hazardous Substances Labeling Act of 1960 and the Toy Safety Act of 1969 removed harmful chemicals from these sets. A.C. Gilbert no longer makes these hazardous kits, and modern chemistry sets now use safe materials and include clear safety instructions. Toy guns with explosive caps were popular with children in the 1940s. Companies like Daisy Manufacturing Company and Kilgore made these cap guns using small explosive chemicals in percussion caps. When the trigger was pulled, the hammer would strike the cap, making a loud bang and releasing a puff of smoke. This realistic effect made cap guns attractive to kids who liked to play pretend as cowboys and soldiers. Despite their appeal, these toys were dangerous. If handled wrongly, the caps could cause burns and the noise could damage hearing. There were also accidents where the caps ignited by mistake, causing injuries. To address safety concerns, new rules were introduced in the 1960s, greatly reducing the use of explosive chemicals in cap guns. Daisy Outdoor Products now focuses on air rifles and outdoor gear. Bakelite toys became popular because they were strong and came in bright colors. Bakelite, an early type of plastic, was used to make toys such as dolls, cars, and building sets. Companies like Bakelite Corporation and Cataline Corporation were the main producers of these toys. Bakelite was chosen because it was easy to shape and not very expensive. Despite these advantages, Bakelite had a major problem. It was brittle and could break into sharp pieces. These broken pieces could cause cuts or injuries, making the toys dangerous for kids. As a result, more flexible and safer plastics like polyethylene and polystyrene replaced Bakelite in the 1950s. Bakelite Corporation, now part of Hexion Incorporation, no longer makes toys. Could the dangerous effects of Bakelite toys have led to safer alternatives? Let's explore the risks of lead-based painted toy cars next. Toy cars painted with lead-based paints were popular among children in the 1940s. Companies like Dinky Toys and Barclay Manufacturing Company made these small cars using bright and attractive colors. Unfortunately, the paint contained lead, which is toxic. If children chewed on the toys or ate bits of paint, they could get lead poisoning. This could cause serious health problems, including developmental delays and damage to the nervous system. By the mid-20th century, the dangers of lead-based paints became more known. In the 1970s, laws were passed to ban lead in household paints and toys. This change helped protect children's health, and manufacturers switched to safer, non-toxic paints. Companies like Dinky Toys and Barclay now focus on creating lead-free toys. Inflatable balloons were a popular choice for parties and celebrations in the 1940s. These balloons were made from rubber, which could contain harmful chemicals. Companies such as the United States Rubber Company made these balloons. While they were colorful and exciting, they came with serious risks. The materials in the balloons could release toxic substances, especially if they were chewed or popped. The small pieces from broken balloons also posed a choking hazard to young children. As reports of choking and chemical exposure increased, safety regulations began to address these concerns. This led to the creation of safer materials for balloons, such as latex or mylar, which are now less harmful and stronger. The United States Rubber Company, now known as Uniroyal, focuses on making tires and other rubber products. In the 1940s, paper dolls were a popular toy among many children. Companies such as Salfield and Whitman Publishing made these dolls, which were brightly painted using lead-based inks. While the vibrant colors made the dolls attractive, the lead in the paint created serious health risks. Children could get lead poisoning by touching the dolls and then putting their hands in their mouths or by chewing on them. Lead poisoning can lead to severe health problems such as developmental delays and brain damage. As people became more aware of these dangers, safety rules changed. By the 1970s, many countries banned the use of lead in children's toys, and manufacturers switched to safer, non-toxic materials. Salfield and Whitman Publishing now focus on creating safe, lead-free products. Could these dangerous toys lead to even worse accidents? Let's explore the toy helicopters with sharp metal rotors next. In the 1940s, toy helicopters with sharp metal rotors were very popular with children. Companies like Wyandotte Toys made these helicopters with realistic designs and spinning blades. The toys were exciting for kids who enjoyed pretending to fly their own aircraft. But the sharp metal blades were dangerous. They could easily cause cuts or eye injuries if the toys were not used carefully. These accidents became common, and parents and safety experts grew concerned. As a result, stricter safety rules were introduced in the 1950s, and many of these dangerous toys were taken off the shelves. Manufacturers switched to safer designs with plastic rotors and other protective features. Wyandotte Toys is no longer in business, but collectors still appreciate these vintage toys. Jumping jack toys with springs were very popular with children in the 1940s. Toy companies made these toys with figures with arms and legs connected by springs. When a string was pulled, the limbs would move up and down, making the figure jump. While these toys were entertaining, they could be dangerous. The springs might snap back unexpectedly, causing serious injuries to a child's eyes or face. Accidents with these toys were common, leading to concerns among parents and safety experts. By the 1950s, new safety rules were introduced, and many of these risky toys were taken off the market. Toy makers then began creating safer versions without exposed springs. Wyandotte Toys no longer operates, but collectors still cherish these vintage items. Toy planes with sharp metal parts were popular among children in the 1940s. Companies like Wyandotte Toys and Hubley Manufacturing made these small model planes with metal propellers and sharp tips. These realistic designs made the toys exciting, but they were also dangerous. The sharp metal parts could easily cause cuts or puncture wounds if the toys were not handled carefully. Accidents involving these toys were common, and parents and safety advocates became increasingly concerned. As a result, stricter safety regulations were introduced in the 1950s, and many of these dangerous toys were removed from the market. Manufacturers then began making safer toys with plastic parts and rounded edges to reduce the risk of injury. Wyandotte Toys is no longer in business, but collectors still cherish these vintage toys. Toy rocket launchers were exciting playthings for children by companies like Marx Toys. These toys shot small rockets at high speeds, with the rockets usually made of metal or hard plastic, allowing them to travel far. While they provided lots of fun, they also carried serious dangers. The fast-moving rockets could cause eye injuries or damage to the face if they struck someone. As a result, accidents with these toys were common, leading to worries among parents and safety groups. Stricter safety rules were introduced in the 1950s, and many of these dangerous toys were taken off the market. Manufacturers started making safer toys with softer materials and less forceful launchers. Wyandotte Toys is no longer in business, but collectors still appreciate these vintage items. As these thrilling yet dangerous toys have led to even more risky innovations, let's explore the next one. Friction-powered cars were popular toys for kids in the 1940s. These small cars worked by pushing them forward to wind up a friction motor, which made them move independently without needing batteries or winding keys. While these toys were exciting, they also had serious safety risks. The friction motors could overheat and break, causing the cars to catch fire or even explode, leading to burns and other injuries. As reports of such incidents grew, parents and safety groups became concerned. By the 1950s, stricter safety rules were introduced, and many of these dangerous toys were removed from shelves. One of the companies known for making toys like Marx Toys eventually went out of business. Glass marbles were a popular toy among children in the 1940s. Companies like Ali Agate and Acro Agate made millions of these colorful marbles, which were used in games like Chinese checkers and traditional marble games where players flicked them to hit targets. Despite their popularity, glass marbles posed serious dangers. They were small enough to be swallowed, which could lead to choking, especially for younger children. Marbles could also cause injuries if thrown, leading to cuts or bruises. As people became more aware of these risks, safety rules changed. By the 1970s, new guidelines were introduced to prevent small parts in toys that could be swallowed, which led to fewer glass marbles being produced for young children. Companies like Ali Agate and Acro Agate stopped making them or changed their focus. Toy knives were very popular with children who liked to play pretend games. Companies like Marx Toys and Wyandotte Toys made these plastic knives look like real ones, with sharp edges to make the play more exciting. However, the sharp edges made these toys dangerous, and if not used correctly, they could cause cuts and injuries. Reports of these accidents led parents and safety groups to become more concerned. As a result, new safety rules were introduced, and many dangerous toys were taken off the shelves. In response, manufacturers started making safer toys with rounded edges and softer materials to reduce the risk of injury. Marx Toys, a major toy maker, is no longer in business. The flapper pistol became a favorite toy among children during the 1940s. Designed to resemble a real pistol, it featured a capping mechanism that created a loud bang when the trigger was pulled, making playtime feel like an adventure. Despite its appeal, this toy had significant risks. The caps contained small amounts of explosive material that could cause burns or injuries if not handled properly. The metal components could also lead to cuts or bruises during rough play. By the late 1940s, stricter safety regulations were introduced, and many hazardous toys were removed from stores. Manufacturers either shifted to safer designs or stopped making them entirely. Could dangerous toys like these have inspired safer innovations? Let's explore inflatable toy boats next. Inflatable toy boats became popular for children to use in pools and lakes during the 1940s. These boats, made by companies like the United States Rubber Company, were created using early rubber materials. While they provided excitement, they also posed serious safety risks. The rubber used was not strong enough, making the boats prone to popping or deflating. If this happened while a child was in the water, it could leave them stranded and at risk of drowning. There was also a danger of suffocation if a child got caught in the deflated boat. As a result of accidents, safety concerns grew, leading to stricter regulations in the 1950s. Manufacturers switched to stronger materials and improved designs to ensure safety. The United States Rubber Company, now known as Uni Royal, shifted its focus to making tires and other rubber products. In the 1940s, toy swords with sharp metal blades were popular among children. Companies like Wyandotte Toys and Marx Toys made these swords to look realistic. These toys that were made of metal had sharp edges and points, which made them exciting but dangerous. Children enjoyed pretending to be knights or pirates while playing with them. However, the sharp metal edges created risks, as the swords could easily cause cuts or puncture wounds during play. Accidents with these toys became common, raising concerns among parents and safety groups. By the 1950s, stricter safety rules were implemented, and many dangerous toys were removed. manufacturers began making safer toys with rounded edges and softer materials. Wyandotte Toys is no longer in business. Pinball machines were popular arcade games, but they had serious safety problems. Companies like Gottlieb and Bally made these machines with sharp metal parts that lacked modern safety features. Players would launch a steel ball onto the playfield, bouncing off bumpers and obstacles. However, the exposed metal parts could cause hand injuries if players reach inside the machine or the ball hits them. These safety issues led to concerns from parents and safety groups. As a result, stricter safety rules were introduced, and manufacturers started designing machines with protective covers and smoother edges. This helped make pinball machines safer for players. Toy boats with gasoline engines became popular with children in the 1940s. Companies like Buckeye and Herkimer made small boats using tiny gasoline engines. Kids could launch them on ponds or lakes for hours of entertainment. But the gasoline engines were dangerous. They could overheat and catch fire or explode. The need to handle gasoline and operate the engines safely made these toys risky for young children. As more reports of accidents and injuries came in, parents and safety groups became worried. In the 1950s, stricter safety rules were implemented, and many of these dangerous toys were removed from stores. Manufacturers began making safer toy boats, such as those powered by batteries or wind-ups. Buckeye and Herkimer have since changed their focus or stopped making toys. Creepy crawlers became a hit toy for kids who loved making their own flexible, colorful bugs. Introduced by Mattel as part of the Thingmaker series in 1964, it included metal molds and a substance called Plastigoop. Kids poured the Plastigoop into molds and heated it on a hot plate to create rubbery insects they could play with. This process came with risks, as the molds and hot plate reached very high temperatures which could cause burns, and the Plastigoop released fumes that could harm health if inhaled. Stricter safety rules in the late 1970s led Mattel to stop making the original version. The toy returned in the 1990s and is now sold with modern safety standards. In the 1940s, electric model trains with hot engines were popular toys among kids. Companies like Lionel and American Flyer powered these trains with small motors. The trains could move around tracks set up inside homes, making them exciting to play on. But the engines would get very hot while running, which created serious dangers. The exposed wires and overheating engines could lead to burns or even electrocution if touched. Concerns grew after reports of accidents and injuries, leading to calls for safer toys. By the 1950s, new safety rules were implemented, and many dangerous trains were taken off the market. Manufacturers then created safer model trains with better insulation and other safety features to protect children. Lionel and American Flyer still make model trains, but now they meet modern safety standards.